Hello world, I'm back. Um, Whoops. I lost my timer. What was it called? What's my little timer app called? Gotta remind myself. Hold on. Wasn't my stream timer, it was a different one. Wish I thought of this before I went live. But this is life. Snaz. That's the one. Hello, Snaz. Anyway, I'll have my timer up on screen in a second. So I'm in the 16 hours-ish range. And there we go. 16, 39. Yeah. So I realized my last stream got cut off without me realizing it. I think there was some network problems, so I lost a few minutes. I'm going to show what I did right at the end of my last session because it's pretty cool. So I finished reworking the ship movement so that the little jets kind of scale with the direction, and so that the ship turns and then starts to thrust into the turn midway through the turn. So now you can just right click and hold to control the ship, and it is snappy and easy, and it's got a little visual feedback. And I decided this is going to be the way that you move the ship in the game forever. So previously I had this arrow key based movement, and it was very tricky in the way that asteroids is tricky, where you get spinning or you get sliding, and it's very hard to slow yourself down because you have to kind of turn the other way and push back to decelerate. And when you're also managing a lot of other stuff, like building the ship and navigating the levels and fighting enemies, it's too much handling the kind of slidey 2D physics in this type of game. So I decided to do this mouse click movement method, and it felt like crap for a while, but now it feels good. The main thing that was, I think, a successful experiment is that it rotates with a certain force towards the direction that the mouse is being held, and then after it passes the 90-degree mark, it scales up the thrust with like a dot product. So what it means is, first of all, the thrusters look cool because they only show up when they're pushing in the right direction. And second, it feels a little more realistic because the ship never just pulls backwards randomly. It actually like completes its rotation before it starts thrusting in the direction you want it to go. So it feels like it's moving like a real physical ship, but you don't have to think about rotation or translation or momentum all that much. You can kind of just click where you want to go, and the ship will orient and push in a way that looks kind of realistic. So that is neat, and I like how it turned out. And yeah, so let's rock and roll. My goal is to get to the 20-hour mark and then try to step off of prototyping mechanics and move into creating content. So making sprites, making backgrounds, making some menus, a lot of the visual stuff that kind of ties the game together and gives it structure. So I am going to spend this entire session, which I think may be over 3 hours, if I can survive that long, just crunching on game mechanics code, putting functionality in. And then at the end of this session, I'll be ready to transfer kind of from prototyping into production a little bit. Even though this whole process is endless prototyping, so yeah. First, I'm going to fix something that's bugging me, which is that the camera snaps really hard when you build and recenter things, and I'm not a huge fan of that, so. Pew-pew, pew-pew. I'm going to make the camera interpolate a little bit so that it moves smoother. I can also make it lag behind the ship a little bit. Yeah. Let's see. Make the camera. All right. So the camera is going to have I'm going to give the camera a target position where it's trying to be at any given time. We'll call this interpolate position. So this should smoothly slide towards where the camera's trying to be at any given time. Vector3.load. Times, we're gonna give this like a movement factor. If this goes higher, it will go faster. So we'll call it speed or something that reflects that if the number is higher, it will go faster. I was thinking about whether it was that or the inverse, like whether I should name it delay or speed or whatever. So I'm going to call this cam speed. This is not compiling. Cam controller. Oh, it is compiling. I just didn't expose this variable. Okay, so now the camera, oh, I forgot to move the cam speed, so now it's just going to be stationary, right? Yep, okay. Let's just start this at 1 and see how it feels. Whoa, not nearly snappy enough. Ship can just straight up go off screen. Oh, weird. Looks like it's twitching a little bit too. Okay. Let's make the camera a lot faster. All right. This looks like the behavior we want, but there's a lot of twitchiness. So why is there a lot of twitchiness? Fixed update to move in time with physics. Let's try this. Maybe this is what we want. That did make it smooth. There's no twitching anymore. Yeah, that was what we wanted. So now the camera position updates in time with the physics system. All right, cool. So when you go really fast, the ship starts to push to one side of the screen, but it never like fully reaches the sides of the screen, which is what we want. And let's see how this looks with the building code. It should look like it's smoothly recentering. So add a connector. Yeah, that is so much better. Now instead of it just popping, it looks like it is slowly So this actually does raise a little bit of an observation though. This feels smooth and pretty cool. Oh, well. The ship is going way too far, way too fast right now. Oh, that's because the cam speed is lagging. I didn't update the value. So this does raise a question though, which is if you are traveling in a direction, and especially if you hit the thrusters to go super fast, while you're accelerating you kind of reach the edges and you can't see in the direction you're going. And I think you generally want to see in the direction that you're going to avoid obstacles and in the direction that you're shooting in order to be able to aim. So I think I actually want to have the camera lead you a little bit in the direction that you're going, so that when you're traveling to the left, the camera looks ahead of you. When you're traveling to the right, the camera looks ahead of you that way. So let's make the camera a little smarter. We'll add the ship's current velocity. To the target position for the camera to go in. Let's just try this without scaling it at all first. See how this looks. That is too far. So we'll do let's try doing 1/10 of that. See how that feels. Because that was sliding the camera view way off screen. So now if I go this way, go this way. Now things stay pretty centered, which means we've kind of canceled the effect of the camera's latency. So the camera takes a little while to interpolate towards the ship, but it's also leading in the direction the ship is going. So it feels like everything is always static now. Let me see how this feels with thrusters pushing pretty hard. Okay, this is like, I guess the camera speed is 10 and the velocity offset is 1/10, so we're basically canceling. So let's try exaggerating this a bit so that we will lead in the direction of travel. That is pretty cool. So now when we're pushing in a direction, we slide behind a little bit so that we can see in the direction that we're facing. Does it keep sliding back forever? If I hit the thrusters really hard, I can go off camera, so that shouldn't be possible. So need to tune this value down. So 10 felt like it never moved, and 25 was too high. So let's do half of it. Oops. Yeah. Let's scale this offset value by half. Let's see how this looks. Yep, it's subtle, but it adds quite a bit. And it's still possible to lose the ship here. So this value is still too high. I'm going to go to 15. See how this feels. Can the ship ever go off screen completely? Not right now with these present thrusters. And is this amount of slide reasonable? Yeah, I think it is. Ship mostly is in the center of the screen. When you push in a direction, it leads a little bit so that you can see the way you're going, like that. But it's not dramatic. It's just a little bit. Gives you a little more of a view of where you're going and what you're aiming at. When you're stopping and decelerating, it pretty much recenters on your ship. When you're accelerating hard, it gives you a more exaggerated view in front of you. This feels pretty good. This feels pretty good. I think I like it. I'll keep it. So now whatever direction you're traveling, the ship slides back a little bit and the camera leads you so that you can see where you're going. Pretty easy for a pretty smart camera behavior. Like, that was real simple, and I feel like it helps a lot with being able to see and navigate in the world. So, got smooth camera. What is next? I think what I want to do next is some basic enemy AI, because I would like enemies that move, and I would also like homing missiles, which will use the same behaviors basically. So I'm going to start cranking on that. Let me refill my coffee and take a bathroom break, and then I'm going to start implementing some movement behaviors. They're going to be pretty similar to the ship's movement behaviors actually, because the ship is seeking the mouse position and the enemies are going to use like some sort of basic seeking behavior, so there may be some reuse here. I think it'll go faster than doing the ship's movement. So be right back. All right. Let's get back to it. I'm going to make a little AI enemy. So we'll call this basic seeker. I want an enemy that's going to move towards you and then shoot at you. So let's think about the parts we need here. The enemy is going to need to select a place to go, move toward that place, and then when it arrives at that place, do behavior. So let's actually, I'm going to call this fighter. These are going to be little enemy fighters. I'm going to make them look like little triangles. They're going to fly towards you, try to shoot you. Basic fighter. So I'm going to do coroutines for different states here because it's just very easy to set up quickly. I'm going to do this on enable, so if the object gets turned off for any reason, then when it gets turned back on, it'll restart. So we'll do seek target. So this is the object that the enemy is trying to move towards. When we start seek, I'm going to say if the seek target isn't set, we'll grab a reference to the player ship. What was the difference between find object and find any object? I don't remember. Find object of type. Find object of type returns the first one. Find any says I don't care about order or what it is. So okay. All right. So we're going to grab a target to seek. Make a little loop here. I wonder if there's a built-in way to reference the 2D rigid body on your current object. because... Oh, there is. Oh wait, that was a suggested name. Hold on. I'm going to try this real quick. Oh. Property rigid body has been deprecated. Use component rigid body instead. Okay, they just got rid of the property, so I'm doing this right. Can I use that name? I guess I'll just underscore it. So I'll get a reference to my rigid body so that I can use it for calculations. All right. We're going to give this fighter a distance that it tries to hover at. From the player, so that, because its goal is to move after the player and shoot at them. That's what this enemy is going to do. It's going to move towards the player, point at them, and shoot at them. What that means is we can't have it just move to the player's position because it'll just crash into them. So it needs to pick a position some distance away from the player, and that's going to be this hover distance variable, is how far away from the player in our direction we're trying to hover. So So the target position that I'm trying to get at is going to be constantly updated because the player is going to be moving, the enemy's going to be moving. This is something that's going to get reevaluated in real time, and it's always going to be trying to slide towards that position. So I'll do seek behavior, spelled the Unity way. I'm calling this my target position to distinguish that it's not the position of our target. It's the position we are targeting getting to. So my target position is going to be the seek target's position minus my position it's going to be my position minus the position of the seek target. Normalized times the hover distance. So however many units away from the player we want the enemy to hover, it's going to take the vector pointing at us from the player and travel along it by that many units. So I think I need to take the seek target's position plus this. So it's the player's position plus a vector pointing in our direction times the hover distance. And this is going to need a thrust value. And a max speed, a lot like what we were just doing with the player ship. Our desired velocity is moving at max speed towards the target position. I'm actually going to store this because I'm doing the same calculation twice. Okay, so the direction to the target is their position minus our position normalized. Let's flip this. This is their position minus our position normalized. Target position is negative direction to target times hover distance plus let's make these all vector 3s. Direction of the target is their position minus our position normalized. Our position, or the position we're trying to get to, is the target's position minus direction of target times hover distance. So this is their position translated backwards along the direction to target, which is why there's a minus, by a distance equal to the hover distance. Our desired velocity is always max speed in the direction of the target position. So or in other words, max speed in the direction of the target. Our current velocity we get from the rigid body, which just managing the physics. And then the force to apply is the desired velocity. Oh wait, so the desired velocity, we need an arrival distance. So the arrival distance is the distance within which we start to decelerate. Times equals, because if we're very close to our target, we don't want to go max speed, otherwise we'll blow past it. So our desired velocity is multiplied by the distance to the target distance to the target position is equal to the magnitude of the offset from where we are to where we're trying to be. Times equals. So we're going to multiply our desired velocity by the ratio of the distance to the target with the arrival distance. So if we are at the arrival distance, meaning these two values are equal, we still want to be going max speed. And then as our distance gets closer to 0, we want to slow down. So as this value reduces, we are slowing. And we need to clamp this value so that it's not greater than the arrival distance, so that if we're like way far away, this doesn't multiply by, we don't want this to accelerate us if we're far away. We just want to be traveling at the max speed. We just want to decelerate here. So this line decelerates when close. It's very similar to what we did earlier for the ship movement behavior. And then to apply the force, we're going to do rigid body dot add force. And the force we're adding is the desired velocity minus the current velocity normalized times thrust. So the higher that thrust value, the harder we can accelerate towards our desired velocity. And we also want to multiply this by time dot delta time. so that it scales with the amount of time that's elapsed since the previous frame when we last ran this behavior. I'm going to test this. There's definitely some optimizations and cleanup to do in that code, but I just want to get this working, and then I'm going to clean it up a little bit. So let's create an enemy. 2D object, sprite, triangle, baddie. I'm going to put this out here. I'm going to attach this new fighter script. I think we want hover distance 5. Don't know. Thrust. Max speed. Call arrival distance 2. Give this thing some physics. Turn off gravity on the physics. What is the overload here? There's 2 versions of this method. Okay. I guess it's okay that this is taking in a vector 3. It's not complaining about it. So it must have an override for vector 3s. So let's see what the enemy does. Nothing right now, okay? Oh, it is moving towards us. If we go to the other side, will it turn around? I think it needs way more thrust because we can't even see it moving. So I'm going to say max speed 20, thrust 10. Now it's noticeably moving. Is it noticeably moving towards us? Mm-hmm. Let's give it 100 thrust. So it's orbiting us now. What if I set the hover distance to like 99999 so that it's trying to be super far away from us? It's not working. Okay, so the hover distance isn't working. Why is that? My target position equals the seek target's position. Direction of the target. Times hover distance. Oh, I should actually be able to see this from the debug view, I think. Probably didn't need to print that value out, but I'll check here. Do 100 thrust, a max speed of 200, a hover distance of 20. Let's try this real quick. So the player's position is player's position is 0, 0, 0 right now, and the baddie's target position rotation velocity. Debug view. Target position is -14, +13, and then it flips. Okay. So this should be trying to get like way out here on a big radius, and it's not. I think I just have a logic error, so am I not applying the target position? I'm not. I see. This is direction to target object. Not direction to target position. And I got those two mixed up. So this needs to be the target position minus my position times max speed. We want to be moving at max speed towards our target position. Okay. So let's try this now, and I'm going to make hover distance back to the value that I was guessing at earlier. Nice. So it's not decelerating very well, but it is hovering a little distance from us, and I like that. Now if we move, like over here, the enemy pursues us, and it has a horrible time decelerating. So I think the arrival distance, it needs more thrust so it can change direction more quickly, and the arrival distance needs to be higher so that it has a bigger bubble to decelerate in. Okay, still not quite doing it, so arrival distance 10. Yeah, that's what we needed. We needed it to slow itself down when it gets close to where it wants to be. Much bigger arrival distance and maybe more thrust. 250? How about 1,000? There we go. Now it's hovering right there. Look at that. Look at that. It's chasing us, and it's hovering just a short distance outside. And if we want it to be farther away, we can tell it hover distance 7. That's further away. Hover distance 9. That's further away. We can spawn a whole bunch of these. Oops. And spread them out. Like that. Now when I move around, there's a little cloud of enemies chasing me, and they are going to have a tendency to stack up, so we're going to need an avoidance behavior to make them spread out a bit, otherwise they'll all just get right on top of each other. But we have a nice little cloud of enemy fighters chasing us around, and sometimes they spread out. They don't have any facing yet, so we can't see if they're aiming at us. They are way too fast. Let's give them a lower max speed. Oh, all of them a lower max speed. Because they are slingshotting all around the universe right now. Let's give them a max speed of 10. Nice. If I fly away, they chase after me. Feels like they're unshakable, which is kind of cool. Give them a max speed of 5. Make them go real slow. What about max speed of 1? Make them crazy slow. Yeah, they were going much too fast before. Okay. How about a max speed of 2? Now if we fly off screen, they'll chase us. Yeah, I think we need a little more than 2. Does 5 feel good? 5's a little fast. 3.5 it is. And they change direction on a dime almost. What happens if I do a lot less thrust? How long does it take them to catch up to us? Okay. I'm gonna do 250 thrust. 3.5 max speed. I'm gonna do hover distance slightly higher. Back it up, back it up, back it up. Do hover distance 12. That was interesting. They came and sat on me for a second. I don't know why. Should have updated instantly. Okay. I want them to hover at a distance where if they're in the like down direction here, they are still within the bounds of the screen. So maybe 10 is about right. And I'm going to have them each pick a slightly different offset to their hover distance so that they don't stack up perfectly. So let me copy these values because there's a decent first pass at tuning things. Why can't I copy the values? Well, let me. Oh, because it's multiple enemies. I have a bunch selected. There we go. Alright. Paste these values. Oh, this light on my face. I need to cover up my window. It's shining through the little holes in the blinds. It's killing me. I'm gonna fix that real quick. BRB. All right. Literally just put masking tape over the blinds. It looks lovely. It's actually casting some blue light now. It's like blue painter's tape. Okay. Whatever. Let's proceed. Okay. So here's my little enemies. We also want them to face in the direction that they're traveling, because that always makes things look a lot better. Like flying things. And I'm going to scale it a little bit like that. Actually, let's make it a little bigger. There we go. Make them enemy colored. It's purple, the standard color of evil in the universe. Actually, I think red is. But I have the player red right now. Should I change that? Yeah. Yeah, the player shouldn't be red. Red things are bad things. Give the player more of a player color. Make the baddie some kind of light red color. They do blend into the background a little bit there though. That's the background's fault more than anything. Let's just have them always face in the direction that they're traveling for now. It means that sometimes if they decelerate and then change direction... Game Maker 2, I don't know. I haven't worked with Game Maker. Sorry, I just saw that chat. I haven't worked with Game Maker, so I don't have an opinion on it. I've been pretty Unity specialized for a long time. I know that a lot of people use it, so it can't be that bad. But I don't really have an informed opinion on how it's different from other engines, or... my understanding is that it's a little bit more... that it's the kind of engine that's sort of geared towards making certain types of games and making certain assumptions about what you want to build. And so there's probably types of games that it's very well suited for. Every engine has some assumptions built into it. I think Unity tends to be very flexible. Unreal tends to be very performant and better for like high quality graphics, that type of thing. Game Maker, I'm not as sure. So I'm having an issue here where if I make them face in the direction that they are traveling, they twitch a lot when they get to their desired arrival distance, which makes sense. They get to the spot where they want to be and then they keep going back and forth trying to sit on it. So that's not going to work. Let's try just always facing towards the player. Better. Better, better, better. So now the enemies point towards you, which makes them feel a lot more intentional, a lot more alive than just sliding around. I think right now these enemies feel like they... It's pretty cool. These enemies feel like they snap around pretty abruptly. Like, that's not too bad when they come sliding into position. But if I fly through them, they just flip around. What do I think about their acceleration values and their speed values? Oh, I like that little backup. It's chasing me. What would I change about how this enemy is behaving? If you fly towards them, you can collide with them, which I think we want, because collisions are fun. Just hitting things and blowing up and taking damage or whatever. Max speed. What do I think about the max speed of these enemies? Is that too fast? Probably. Probably a little bit too fast. Their arrival distance, not too bad. What do I feel about their thrust? Like how quickly they accelerate and decelerate. That's not bad. It's not too bad. They do come sliding past you quite a bit. Oh, but the slide past you is actually because their position relative to you is always reevaluating. So it's like he's trying to get here, and now he's trying to get here, he's trying to get here, he's trying to get here, and like the position he's trying to get to keeps sliding along. Because there's not a particular side of me he's trying to get to, so maybe it's fine if they slide past you a little bit. Like if I go flying way over this way, super fast, and then I let this guy come at me, he goes sliding around to the other side. Oh, he slides too far though. I think maybe a little more thrust. So that, because thrust is also stopping distance. Like what if we make the thrust just 99999? Or 99999. Where'd he go? He thrust it off the map. Where are you, bad guy? I lost him. He has exited the universe. What direction is he in? Wow, totally lost that enemy. Come on back, bad guy. He's sliding away. That is odd. He shouldn't be sliding away forever. Why would he be doing that? Target position 70, -18. Sounds reasonable. That's probably about where the player ship is, right? Yep. Oh, I think he's coming back. I think he might finally be coming back. Yeah, he's about to come back. Oh wait, his Y value is just off the charts. Okay. I think I screwed him up by typing new values in here during runtime. Let's double the thrust value. So the enemies can accelerate and decelerate a lot faster. Yeah, I like that. That was kind of cool. He did like a sliding break there. If you travel just a short distance, they keep on the same side of you and they keep up pretty well. If you travel really far, they get up to speed and then kind of go sliding past you. I think maybe their max speed should be a little bit lower and thrust a little bit higher. Let's try this. Because it's okay to leave the enemies alone if you go really fast, but we don't want them just like... Let's give them a max speed of 2. There goes the enemy. Yeah, I think it's okay to be able to outrun them. We just don't want them to like overshoot you like crazy. Let's try that. Whoa, there he goes. It seems a little bit like these are going faster than their max speed, like more so than they should be. If I run away, is he going to keep up? Alright, his max speed's very low now. If I go really far, is he going to go faster than his max speed? Or is it capping properly? Alright, that seems okay. When I set it low enough, they don't go slingshotting past you, so that's good. Okay. I think I want 1.25, like something like that. Feels about right. Paste those values. Now, the other thing I want to do is keep the enemies from stacking right on top of each other. And I think the way to do that is to have the enemies detect other nearby enemies and then apply some avoidance force. Kind of a flocking behavior. Just thinking how it should work. Actually, let's try something really simple first to keep the enemies from stacking up. Let's apply some randomness to the distance that they want to be from you. That one. Times random dot value times random dot value times 0.5 f times, I want this to be plus or minus 25%. So this is a number between 0 and 1/2, and then I want to shift it up by 0.75 so that now it is a number between 0.75 and 1.25 randomly chosen. What does this look like if this just updates every frame? They're kind of constantly oscillating in and out towards you. Actually, that's going to kind of average out if it's updating all the time. What if I make a bunch of these enemies? Duplicate, 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 duplicate. Yeah, you can see them shifting in and out a little bit, but it doesn't really do what I wanted. On enable, I'm going to set this to a number. Between 0.75 and 1.25. And then every one of these bad guys should hover at a slightly different distance forever. Let's make a bunch of them and see if they kind of spread out in an array. Yep, there they go. Nice. So that keeps them from clumping a bit. It helps. It doesn't solve the problem, but it helps. So, the next thing to get them to spread out more, honestly, that's not bad. That's a pretty good start. Oh, and they break up nicely when you go towards them now, because they all spread to slightly different positions. That is a lot better on the clumping, but they do still overlap, and we don't want that. So I think what's going to have to happen is these are going to have to avoid other nearby friends of each other, so that they spread out from each other a little bit. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to have them detect each other. And in order to have them detect each other, they're going to have like a bubble of awareness, which means I'm going to have to put some colliders on them, which was a thing that was going to happen anyway. So let's put colliders on bad guys. Do a nice little polygon collider. Okay. Should be able to bump into him now. Shove him out of the way. Bonk. There we go. Bonk. Got some bonk action. And maybe I can assign like RAM values to things. Cool. So they stop lasers now. They still don't take damage because I haven't set that up, but that's fine. Get rid of this debug spam. Okay, so I'm going to keep this scale situation. I feel like they need to be a little wider, but that's fine. Just to keep lasers from completely missing them for now. I'm going to take this range here, make it 0.6, 0.7. Whoops. Want a little more spread in where they go. So I increase the variation range a little bit. Oh yeah, they have colliders now, so that helps with the stacking problem quite a lot. Spread out. Spread out. Okay. So having colliders keeps them from explicitly stacking, but you still get these kind of situations where they're all kind of nudging on each other if they're trying to be in the same place. Actually, maybe that's fine for now. You know what? Avoidance behaviors are a lot of work. And I could be spending my time on other mechanics right now. So maybe that's good enough. Let's make these bad guys shoot and take damage. Where's our turret enemy? I'm going to give it a fire point. Right at the tip of the gun. I'm going to give it a projectile shooter. That's what it was called. With a reference to the fire point. Give it a laser. Give him a nice bit of inaccuracy. What if I do this? I think the movement code is going to be competing because they're rotating the face a little bit. Oh, it's firing from somewhere over there. Why? Why is it firing from the middle of nowhere? That is odd. Does that position move when they move? Does it rotate when they rotate? No, it doesn't. I see. Reference to the wrong projectile shooter. It's firing from the gun barrel of the invisible turret enemy over there. There we go. Pew pew pew. Let's make a whole bunch of these. Ah, it's a nightmare. Bullet hell. Bullet hell. Oh, this feels pretty cool. They chase you. Maybe the other thing is that I should occasionally... So they spread out nicely when you get in the middle of them. But I think maybe, since they're basically arraying on a circle around me at different depths, which is fine, maybe they should take this vector pointing from me to the edge of the circle and then rotate it a random amount of degrees within a spread so that they naturally spread out more as well. I think that would help with this. They also hit each other with lasers, which is probably not ideal for enemies with really dumb AI that can't avoid hitting each other with lasers. So I probably want a special layer of lasers that only hit the player. Cheaty cheaty. Why write good AI if you can just make the enemies cheat? Ah, they blow up my gun so quickly. Okay, this is feeling pretty cool. So I'm going to do a little less random spread because it looks a little silly right now. They look a little like stormtroopers when they're shooting. I'm going to put cluster rounds at 2 and fire delay at 2. Create a bunch of these, see how it looks. That feels a lot better. A little bit of pew pew action. They're not quite as inaccurate as they were, but they're still a little spread. Just looked kind of silly before. And when I determine the direction to target object, I think I want to have something called reposition timer, where every X number of seconds that pass, the enemy will kind of pick a slightly new position to shift to, either in or out or side to side, so that they all kind of shuffle around a little bit every so often. Just to add a little noise to their positions, make them look a little more natural. How's it going? For a game jam, this is sort of a self-imposed game jam, yeah. It's a personal project, not an organized game jam, but I am going to do a game jam in January. I'm going to do the Pirate Software game jam in January, who I recently started following. Very entertaining dude. But yeah, this is basically a game jam, but I'm spreading it out over a couple of weeks and doing it solo. All right. So I'm going to make a variable called reposition delay. This is how many seconds we wait before repositioning on average. Reposition timer equals I'm going to do plus or minus. So it's a random value between 0 and 0.5 plus 1. So this is a random value between 0.5 and 1.5. Is that true? Let me think. I want to multiply this by 1 plus The reposition delay is equal to, let's see. I think this is just random dot value. So this is between 0 and 1 plus 1. So this is now a value between 1 and 2. And then I want to subtract half from it, which I can just do by lowering this number. So this is now a random value between 0.5 and 1.5. That's what I wanted. Times the reposition delay, which is the average amount of time to wait. Apply reposition. Reposition depth offset and reposition angle offset. I'm going to grab these two variables. What I'm going to do is recalculate these each time this timer expires. So we're changing how far away from the player we are slightly, and we're changing what angle we are relative to the player slightly. And this is this formula I did up here. Times hover distance I'm going to do this minus 0.3. Let's try just this for now. Reposition depth offset. Pick a random number between -0.3 and positive 0.3 times hover distance. So that's give or take a third of the hover distance, about. Plus this value. Whoops. Reposition depth offset. That's what I'm calling it now. Okay. Let's try this. So they should shuffle in and out of distance from you now every so often. So I'm going to say I want you to, every 5 seconds on average, give or take, adjust your hover distance in or out by about a third. There they are. See that one slide back. Not bad. Let's say do this every 2 seconds. Oh. Do that every 2 seconds. Do it every 1 second. They're all in a dance now. Okay. So the next thing is to do a little bit of offset to the angle as well. I'm doing the exact same thing, except I'm going to rotate them a random number of degrees left or right around the circle that they're trying to get on. Equals random dot value plus or minus a 2 times random dot value minus 1. So I'm saying random number between this is a random number between 0 and 2, and then we subtract 1 from it, so it becomes between negative 1 and 1 times the angle spread in degrees. Okay. So this is between negative 1 and positive 1 times the degrees range. And then when it chooses the direction of the target object, when it calculates it, we're going to rotate let me see. Rotate a vector 2 by x degrees. What is the way to do this? I think there's a built-in method to do this, but I'm not seeing it. Gotta Google it. Math is hard. Okay. Going to add in an extension method for this just so that we have it forever. I'm going to add a utility script with some vector helper methods here. Let's make a folder for utility scripts. Okay. And let's do, first let's compile that. Then let me rename this real quick. Compile, please. Rotate by this many degrees. And then, whew, it's getting cluttered. Convert it into a vector 2, rotate it by that many degrees, turn it back into a vector 3. Then do our formula just like we were. So the direction to target object. I think I need to flip this before rotating it. It's getting a little confusing. I think I got it figured out. I'm going to test it, and if it works, then I'm going to clean this. But I'll see if it works. Basic fighter, angle spread degrees. Let's set it to an extreme value like 90. Well, that's different. This is very aggressive now. Well, this feels a lot more alive. This enemy is like active now. Look at these things go. They're all over me. I think the distance value is... Oh, this looks awesome. Now they're like orbiting me and harassing me. But they are trying to ram into me, which is not desirable. So a couple things that are probably happening here. One is position depth offset. Random.value times 0.6 minus 0.3. So this is between negative 0.3 and positive 0.3 times hover distance. Where hover distance... Did I set hover distance? Hover distance is set, and it's using it. Position depth offset. Okay. I'm going to try looking at this in debug mode and figure out why they're ramming me, because it looks like their distance from me is hitting 0, which I don't think it ever should be. So let's look at some bad guys. .48. Let's try not doing the whole rotation thing right now. Something's bugging out and I gotta remove some variables so that I can figure out what. So let's do the depth shifting. Let's remove the logic that's doing the rotation right now. Okay. They're randomly shifting their depth around. That's pretty cool. And that seems to be working. So it has to do with the rotation. You can see sometimes they scoot back, sometimes they scoot forward. Let's try this. More extreme depth shifting. So they can go out to 1.5 or into half. Yeah, so sometimes they'll come in close. Sometimes they'll back up. That's pretty cool. Now let's look at this rotation thing, because that is where this is going wrong. So direction to target object is only being used in this formula right here. Let's check what the reposition angle degrees look like. You can't hear me. You should be able to hear me, but I see my microphone line moving, so I think it's getting input. Should be working. Okay, cool. You can hear me on one and not the other. That's very odd. I'll have to check if that's the stream or something else. Let me go on Twitch real quick and see if I can hear myself. I am muted on Twitch. Why would that be? Bizarre. I'll have to debug that. Could be an audio driver issue, I don't know. Super weird. I don't know why it would stream on one platform and not the other. Yeah, it's okay. It's annoying, but I don't know how to fix it right now. Just working on some enemy AI here. Making the enemies kind of shift their positions in and out in depth so that they feel a little more organic. Let's see. Rotate vector 3 around an axis. I'm trying to make the enemies spread out in kind of a circle around you. I'm going to rotate a vector 3 direction 45 degrees along the y angle axis. That's the one. Angle axis. I'm going to rotate by the angle offset number of degrees. In the z-axis. Let me check how this works. I think I have to multiply this by the vector now. Let's see. Times vector. Yep. It's like that. Position angle offset. Okay, so I'm rotating the vector by that many degrees before deciding where the enemies should go. So they should spread around a circle around you by like a random amount. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that beautiful spread. It's a little too much. And these are not absolute angle offsets. These are like, these enemies are basically picking whether they're orbiting you to the left or the right and by how much. So I think now I turn this down to like 30 and they should orbit a lot slower and occasionally they'll change direction. They're still orbiting very fast. Oh, I only changed this on one of the enemies. Okay, going a lot slower now. Okay, let's do just 15 degrees at most in a given step. So sometimes for a couple of seconds they'll spread out and rotate around you a bit. Let's check if they're doing it. 30. There, see? Spread to the left, spread to the right, and they should change direction occasionally. Yeah. Sometimes they'll settle into a position. Sometimes they'll shift a little bit. Nice. All right. I don't think we need that much of it. I'm going to turn this down to 10. And I want to put some randomness on this reposition timer if I haven't already. Okay, it's between, it already has some. Reposition delay. Let's do this every 3 seconds on average, see if that looks too noisy and busy. When I turn this high, they just like straight up circle you for a while. Cool. I think I want to up the reposition delay back up to like 4, set the angle spread degrees to like 15. Because I want the spreading behavior to be subtle. Maybe that's too subtle. They are spreading a bit, but they stay pretty clustered. Let me try 25. Yeah, so once in a while they kind of pop out and spread around quite a bit. Let's get some guns. I can't even get a gun. Alright. And their lasers go too fast, they shoot too many of them, and there's too many enemies. So that's a thing to work on. So why is there no audio on Twitch? If there is on YouTube. There is now. Okay. So that's interesting. So it's probably not a driver issue and it's not a performance issue. It was probably like either a bandwidth thing or a server thing. Anyway, thank you for letting me know. It's good to know there's a problem, and it's good to know that it was temporary. I'll have to keep an eye on it. It seems like Twitch consistently has more audio issues than YouTube. It's possible that I'm set to some audio bitrate that Twitch doesn't like, but YouTube does, and so sometimes it throttles or something. Because when I was having network problems, the audio was dropping on Twitch, but not on YouTube. So, all right. Let's make these enemies killable, because enemies should be killable in most cases. I'm gonna have to go drag my dog in a second. It's being too loud. I'm gonna AFK once I can get it. Then I'm gonna make enemies killable. Okay. So, let's make the enemies destroyable. I'm going to steal the behavior from the ship parts. Give it a damageable component. Come on. Here we go. Give him 1 HP. Give them an animator so that we can flash them red when they get hit. Give the damage script a reference to that animator. Tell them to automatically destroy themselves, do a fragmentation burst visual effect, and let's try this out. Make a bunch of these. They spread out. Oh, they kill each other. Well, that's fun. Yeah, I forgot about that. Works for me. Oh, it's very satisfying when they die in one hit. Having a bunch of enemies that die in one hit feels good. Let's just create tons of enemies. They're all going to shoot each other to death. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Alright. Okay. I need to create enemy bullet layer. I need to put the enemy bullet prefab on it. Wait, not that one. That's a player bullet. Enemies shoot green bullets, just like Star Wars. Put that on the enemy bullet layer. Take these dudes and put them on the enemy layer. And then go into the physics settings, which are under here, 2D physics. All right, enemy bullets should not be able to collide with each other or with enemies. Okay, see how that goes. Alright, nice. They don't kill each other now. This is a nightmare. Put a gun, put a gun. Alright. Kill them all, kill them all! Oh, this feels like a game. I feel like I'm doing a thing. Alright. Nice. Give me a gun. Give me a gun. It's a good thing my ship is invincible from behind right now. I'm just going to make a broadside here. Nice. Kind of strafe. Ah, they blew all my guns off. And I would be very dead. Okay, cool. I think I want these enemy bullets to look a little bit to... Well, first of all, there's way too many enemies, obviously. I think we can get away with like 10. But beyond that... Come on. I think the... Well, there was a little visual bug there, like the explosion particle system didn't clear itself properly or something. Maybe because... I don't know. I saw a little flicker, like a graphical flicker. There's some kind of bug with objects getting destroyed I'll have to look into, but that's not bad. I think I want these enemy bullets to be a little different. I want them to travel slower, and I want them to be rounder. That? Huh. Those might be a little small. Might actually make them circles. A lot of bullet hell games have circular projectiles for whatever reason. And might be because it's easy to tell exactly where the collision is on them, instead of those weird long stretched out ones where it feels like they should impact at the front, but they'll impact all the way along their length. Maybe there's a reason a lot of those type of games do roundish bullets for a lot of things. I'm going to try making it a little more like that. What am I looking for? Circle Collider 2D. There we go. Let's try this. Yeah, that's... Oh! What is happening? What is happening? Oh, they're not triggers. I'm just getting pushed around now. I changed them to not be triggers by mistake. Okay. It's just getting pelted. What, the thing's pushing you? Maybe we need little gravity orbs that, like, shove you when they hit you. Or do it to enemies. Ah! Let's get some more thrusters on the ship. Super thrust! Blast, 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 blast. Ah! My ship! Don't destroy my ship. Alright, this is looking sweet. Oh, you can slam right into them. I think one of the things I want to add soon is ramming damage, is that when destructible things collide with each other, they have to inflict damage on each other. So that enemies, if you crash into enemies, it'll kamikaze and do a bunch of damage. Or if you ram into an asteroid or an obstacle or something. Time will freeze when you enter build mode, yeah. I think build mode is not going to be a thing you do during the level. It's going to be like you're in a hangar bay with your ship locked in place, and you are attaching all the ship parts, and then you click OK, and then it throws you into the level, and you play the level. And then after the level, you get another phase of upgrading and customizing. That's my plan for the loop. Because building while playing is insane, but that is how it works for now. You can hand paint me a hangar bay, except that I am trying to solo this whole thing, including the art, for now. As soon as my 40 hours challenge is over, I will slam in your art for the hangar bay. I also don't know what the game's going to look like yet. I think I'm going to shift this in a pixel art direction and do sprites for a lot of the stuff. So I guess I said yes, but the short answer is no, because let me do my timed challenge first, and then once we see what everything looks like, I am all for having people contribute to it. Is this looking cool though? Like, I got a lot of stuff going on now. My plan is when I hit the 20-hour mark to switch to doing sprites for a while. Get backgrounds, some level assets, and do the ship parts in pixel art style so that they actually look like ship parts and not just like geometric shapes. So that's coming up soon, in like an hour of dev time or something. Good. It must be terrible, otherwise it won't match the rest of the game. I also need to make the player able to die, but I have it turned off for now because I don't like dying while I'm testing. Right. So, I didn't say this because it's a secret, but part of the reason I did these little fighter enemies is because I really, really want to do homing missiles, and it uses a lot of the same code logic. So I'm going to make a new ship component that's a missile pod that when you trigger it will release a little barrage of missiles that'll track down and hit stuff. Because I want homing weapons real bad. They can have limited ammo, they can explode really big when they die, they can have drawbacks, whatever, but I want some homing missiles in the game, so I'm doing it. And I'm doing it now. Yeah. So the first step to making any homing missile is to make a script called homing missile. Start with a triangle. They should be teeny tiny. I'm going to make them red. I'm going to make the bad guys purple. And I'm going to make the background not purple so that the bad guys don't get lost on it. Tint. I'm going to darken up the background for now. Just a lot. Okay, so enemies are purple for now because I want player lasers to be red and I want enemy lasers to be green. And the reason I'm doing this is so that the homing missiles can also be red. The background screwed up, hold on. It's rendering in front of some stuff because I changed the material. What do I set this to? Unlit. Color. Unlit. Texture. GUI? No. I just need a shader that lets me tint color but doesn't try to render in front of everything. Not UI. Skybox? Nope. Man, there's just not a good... Okay, I'm doing this the dumb way. Hold on. Unlit. Texture. I'm just gonna edit the stupid texture. Hold on. Ain't got time to fool around with shaders right now. Crank it way down. That's fine. Just want the background dark enough that the purple things don't get lost on it. Okay, that's a lot better. I'll get a proper star field on there in a bit. I have messages from like 6 people. One sec. Got it. All right. So, there we go. So the homing missile is red. The homing missile is tiny. The homing missile has a homing missile script on it. Find any object by type. Ship. That's the player ship. I should rename it player ship to be more clear, but get the transform of the player ship. Oh wait. No. These are the players. I'm making missiles that are just going to fire directly back at us. That's not what we want. Acquire target. Else. Seek target. All right. So while we don't have a target, what we want to do is check in like a radius around ourselves for a target. in a bubble. I think by doing like a circle cast. Yeah, I actually remembered what that was called. Okay, there's circle cast and overlap circle. Don't remember the difference. There's variations on them. I gotta Google an example of this. What is the difference between circle cast? Cast a circle against colliders in the scene, returning all colliders to contact with it. Okay, that's what I want. So what is overlap circle, and how's it different from circle cast? Because there's two different methods. Overlap circle says, checks if a collider falls within a particular area. So overlap circle takes in a collider. Doesn't though. The documentation lies. Point radius, layer mask, collider results. Checks if a collider falls within a circular area. So what's the difference between circle cast and overlap circle? Not taking into account the collider versions of those methods. Let's see what the interweb says. One of them casts against all colliders in the scene, the other returns a list of all colliders in a given circle. You would use overlap circle to find if there's any enemies close to the player. The other is more appropriate, for instance, for a spell you would throw in front of the player. Okay, so circle cast. Forums do not clarify which of these you're supposed to use or when. I see. Circle cast creates a circle, translates it along a line, and then returns all the objects that it touches. Overlap circle creates a circle in one place and returns a reference to all the things under that place. Circle cast would be used if we were like checking if there's room to go through a door before walking through it or something, or checking collision over a weapon area or something. What we want is overlap circle. That clarifies it. Radius is we're going to create a variable called lock-on radius. So what are the versions of overlap circle? Layer mask. type of variable is layer mask? It's an integer. Lock on layer mask is going to set what layers the objects are on that we can lock onto. The value an integer? It is. Okay. Whoops, misnamed that. And this returns... Whoa. Collider 2D. Int? Why does this return an integer? Okay. I guess the integer is the count of things that are hits. Max depth. Results. And let's look up an example for how we pass this. Results are returned in the supplied array. Which could be stored in the supplied array given its length. Okay, there's a few versions of this method that return slightly different. Collider 2D. Checks if the collider is within a circular area. Okay. I know this is exciting. Figuring out how this method works. Okay. It says to pass in an array of length equal to the number of things you want to be the maximum that can be returned. And I only care about locking onto one object. So we'll do overlap circle results. this should be point, radius, layer mask. Oh, there's no version that returns results that uses a layer mask. Overlap circle. Does this work? And then I think it's if okay. I'm going to try just printing out whatever is nearby that's being targeted to check if this is working. So the layer mask should be able to hit any enemy. Let's try this. Something's not implemented. We're not calling seek. Shouldn't be calling seek target, but just saw your chat, sorry. So you launch missiles straight forward and then they seek a target only if a target shows up in their circle. Yeah. Yeah, I can do something like that. Gotta get rid of some of this debug spam so that I can actually read the results. And the lock-on radius can be 5. Too much spam in my log. Get these enemies over here. Alright, it is not grabbing the enemies with its overlap. These are on the enemy layer. They are not triggers. They have rigid bodies. So why is this overlap method not working? Use an interarray version of circle overlap, but then set it as a public variable. How the use layer mask was set to false, meaning that although the mask was set, it wasn't active. Here we go. Finally found an example of this in use that I can just copy. All right. Where's the homing missile? So how does a contact filter work? And how's it different from a layer mask? Filtering contact results, define the angle by referring to the position of world space. Okay. Is filtering layer mask. Use layer mask equals true. Okay. Try this. This was more steps than I expected. Okay. Try this. Lock on radius 5, layer enemy. Let's give it a try. That did not work. Let's make sure all these enemies are on 0Z level. They are. Not that that should matter. The radius is not making any difference. So lock on everything. That does not make any difference. Is this being called? Okay. What's happening over here? Something's off. On update, we are acquiring target, and we're supposed to print something. Is target transform not null? Why would that be? Am I setting the target transform? I am. This is left over from before, and it's screwing me up. Okay. That was a 10-minute mistake. Because I switched versions of the method to try to fix this, and the problem was just that I had leftover code screwing around. Alright. Acquire target, outside bounds of array. It's just the debug statement breaking it. Okay, try this. Nice. Nice. It's picking up all those bad guys. And printing out references to them. So, going to do this. So for testing purposes, the missile should snap onto anything that comes near it. I'm going to move the homing missile away down here into the darkness somewhere. And when they come within radius 5 of it, it snaps onto them. Yep. Got lost in the background, but it worked. So here's the homing missile, and when the enemies get close to it, it should snap onto one of them. Boop! Got it. As soon as they come within the radius. Nice. So now what needs to happen is just tuning of the radius, and then once it acquires a target, having it thrust towards the target with a seek behavior. But it is well past my lunchtime. I've been streaming for pushing 3 hours, so I'm going to take a break. And I'll do some more of this later. So I think somebody just got on. But if you're watching, thanks for watching. I am going to pause here for a bit and come back to this later and finish up the homing